Okay, I have a job to do. And that job today is going to consist of doing more stuff to the 2018 Road Glide Special. And so there's a lot of stuff that I have already done to it. I've made previous videos showing you the various stuff that I have done. And what this video today is going to consist of is changing out these crappy original grips that come on these bikes. These things are awful. They're hard. They're this rubber stuff. They're slippery if your hands start to get a little wet or if you get caught out in the rain. They're awful for that. For my hand anyway, these grips are way too narrow. I can wrap my hand completely around these grips and they're just not comfortable at all. So just another way that Harley gets you is they put crappy grips on here because they know that you're going to want to change them out. So that is what I am going to do today, is change these out. Now, I will say this, of all of the Harleys that I have had in the past, this is the first bike that has the throttle by wire, which means that you don't have a throttle cable in here per se, like the old braided cable that went down to your carburetor and all that kind of stuff. So now what you have is just the electrical wire that comes down on the inside of the bar. It goes into your fuel control, and everything is done as far as your throttle is concerned is all done via a fly-by-wire, or I should say a throttle-by-wire. Sorry, in the airline industry we call it a fly-by-wire, which that technology in the airline industry or aviation industry has been around for 30 years. So they're just now catching up to it in automotive and for motorcycles and that kind of thing. But anyway, this will be the first time that I'm going to be doing that. It's a little bit different, but the best that I can tell is that it's a lot easier as far as changing these grips out are concerned. So we'll go through that here in just a second, but just going to take you through step by step on how to change out grips on this throttle by wire type system that you have on the newer model Harleys. It used to be years ago when you had the regular braided cable and all that in there that the right side, the throttle side, was the harder side to do. Not so anymore. Now the slightly harder side to do is the left side, and so we'll go through that. So anyway, the throttle or the grips that I decided to go with, the particular style model is the Airflow. They are a Harley-Davidson style grip. And the reason that I went with these is that they're a larger diameter grip, so they fit my hand a little bit better. So that's really what I was looking for. I was originally just going to kind of try to stick with the theme that I had going on the bike already, which was the Willie G theme with the skull. You can see I have that on my floorboard insert. I have it on my highway peg. I have it down here on my derby cover. I have it over here on my tank lid. But when I got to looking at those, they were just too narrow. They were a lot like these, and I didn't care for them too much. So I ended up going with a slightly different style. Still going to be all black, which is going to match everything just fine. But I just wanted that little bit larger diameter grip. So let's do what we have to do to get these grips on. Tools that are going to be required for this job. I do have instructions, which we won't need. Tools that are going to be required are going to be a 1/4-inch ratchet extension if you need it. It's going to be a 27 Torx bit and a 25 Torx bit, and maybe this little screwdriver just for some slight little prying purposes. We'll see if we actually need that. So anyway, let's get these grips on. Okay, so I've got the grips taken out of the package here now, and first thing to determine is which one of these is going to be the left hand grip and which one is going to be the right hand throttle grip. And there is a very specific way of telling that. For example, if you look at this grip right here, and if you look at this flange area, you can see that that flange area is actually two different sizes. You see how it's a larger radius up here on the top than it is at the bottom, and it also has these two little stop points, one right there and one right there. Okay, so you can see it's two different sizes from, in this case it'll be the bottom and the top, and those little tabs right there. That's my left hand grip. This one is my right hand grip. You can see that it does not have any of that distinction around the outside of it, and also down there in the middle. Though you doubt you're going to be able to see that. Let me see if I can do this real quick. Let me grab this flashlight. I'll point it down in there, and I hope you can see that. But down in there, you can see that it has teeth around the outside of it, and it also has an area there down at the very bottom that also engages. So there's a set of teeth on the bike itself, on the handlebar, and those teeth will engage with those teeth that are in that grip for your throttle by wire. So that's how I know that that is my throttle grip right there, and then this is my left hand grip. All right, so first things first, we figure out which one needs to go where, and we've just determined that. Okay, so on these fly-by-wire, I keep saying that. Okay, so if I keep saying fly-by-wire, just insert throttle-by-wire. So anyway, on these throttle-by-wire bikes, where you have the electronic throttle, we're going to do the left throttle first, because though that groove that I showed you on that left throttle where it has those two little stops on there, it's larger on one diameter than it is on the other. It fits in this housing right here, this switch housing, in a very specific way. And once you get that grip on there, it won't move. It's fixed in that position. So it's best to put that hand grip on first, and then you can match the right one to it later on, being that this is the fixed one, and that's going to be one that you'll be able to adjust. So I'll show you what all that means here in a minute, but that's the reason why we're going to go with the left hand grip first. And so the first thing we want to do is take off this odometer switch right here. And of course what this is since down here on your instrument cluster, right here would be your odometer and your trip meter, and being that we don't have a button on here anywhere, so what Harley has done is they've incorporated this button right here, so I can activate that and I can see that my odometer will come to life. And of course when the bike is on and operating, I can go back and forth between trip meter and odometer on that. But we've got to get this switch off of here first so that I can loosen up this switch housing, and then after that I'll loosen up this clamp right here, which controls my brake and my reservoir. I won't have to take this off, but I will need to loosen it. But the first thing we have to do is we have to get this off. And so the best way to do that is you can actually just flip it up a little bit. You saw how that just flipped up. And then this is where I'm going to use my little trusty screwdriver. And then I can just come in here, and I didn't intend to drop it, but all you have to do is just get in there and just kind of pull it out. So you lift it up first and then pull it out, and it comes right off, as you can see. Okay, and so the next thing that I want to do is come to the switch housing right here, to the back side of it, or the forward side if you will, and we're going to use a Torx 25 up in there, and we're going to get these loosened up. Now the thing about these bolts is that it has a catch on the front side of that bolt, so you can loosen this, but the bolt never does actually come all the way out. It kind of sticks in there. So we'll do that top one, and then we'll get to this bottom one. Same thing, that bolt is not going to come all the way out. All right, so I'll show you that, and then I'm going to get around to the front side here so that the switch housing doesn't fall on the floor like the other switch did. So let me get right in here. Get rid of my light at this point. It's not blinding everybody. Finish getting that off of there. Just getting that bottom bolt loose. All right, that should be it. And I should just be able to separate this and then just pull it off and set it off to the side. Okay, this one right here, I can just kind of loosen it up just a little bit here to try to separate it. That's all we're doing. And you can see now why I had to take that little switch off there, because trying to get this thing loosened up and that little switch top was still on there, it wasn't going to allow me to do it. I'm trying to do this with one hand, but with two hands, you're just going to kind of work this loose a little bit. All you're trying to do is just loosen it up so you can get that grip out of there. Okay, so we got that loosened up a little bit, but it's only going to be able to go so far because I have to loosen these up right here. So this is a Torx 27 that I've just switched to. And so now I'm going to loosen these up. These are the ones that you do not have to take all the way out. We just need to loosen it up. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I'm trying to get enough clearance on this switch housing right here where I can get the lip of this grip out, which is still kind of in there a little bit. So all we're going to do is just loosen this up enough where I can get enough play in there where I can pull the grip out. Okay, so as you can see, I've loosened this up enough right here where it's given me enough clearance on this where I've actually exposed that lip on this hand grip now. And so now this is all going to depend. I'm thinking they didn't do it. This one wasn't glued because I can twist it. And I haven't gone in here and done anything to this in between, my camera shots here. So, that's the way that this normally works, is it just sits in a groove that's right inside of these two halves. And sometimes you'll find that at the factory they glued these on. This one was not glued on, so I am going to be able to just take it and twist it right off, and off it comes. It has glue in there, but it wasn't adhering too well. This will all get cleaned up before I put the other grip on, just because that glue doesn't need to be there. All right, so that's the left one. That's how you get it off. Now we'll put the new one back on. Even though that grip wasn't on there very tight, it had some glue up underneath there. I'm not sure what that was all about. Just use whatever to clean this up. I use lighter fluid for stuff like this, that Rosinol lighter fluid, like you put in a Zippo or something like that. I use that for stuff like this. WT-40 is actually a very good cleaner. Brake fluid is a good cleaner. Acetone, all along those lines. Okay, I think we got that. It's got a little bit of residual right there at the end of the grip, but I'm not going to worry about that. All right, let's put the other grip on. Okay, so we are going to take the new grip and we're going to put it on, and once again, we're going to use that one that has that funky little flange on there where it has the two stop points, one on either side. We're going to put that in. Now I know that, I believe that larger diameter right there ends up on the bottom, so I'm going to start out with it kind of on the bottom. And also another thing about these grips is that they have kind of a recessed area when you get towards the bottom of it, so you're going to actually have to press that thing into place to get it all the way in. And I'm going to need to do this with two hands, but for the most part, so I'm not knocking my bike over, you're going to need to press that thing in a little bit further to get it all the way seated, so just make sure that you do that. Okay, so I have pushed that grip in far enough, and I spread this housing out far enough where I could get it all aligned. Now the one thing that you want to keep in mind here is, remember that grip has a larger flange on the bottom than it does on the top. And you can see right there exactly where that stop goes. So you can see right there was that little notch that was on the grip. Well, there's also a little notch on the housing right there. Hope you can see that little notch right there. That's exactly where you want that. Of course, I just knocked it out of the way. But that's exactly where you want that whole housing to sit. That's the perfect place for it right there. That's where you want to sit it. All right, and then we'll start to put it back together here. There's going to be a little manipulating that you have to do on the grip to make sure that it sits in there just perfectly, but you have to do that as you're kind of putting it back together. Okay, so I wiggled it around in there a little bit, and now I'm going ahead and tightening these 25 Torx back up again. I'm kind of going evenly between the bottom and the top, just to make sure that everything's good. And the way that you're going to know that this grip is seated in there properly is that gap right there. You don't want to see, you don't want to see a big gap over here and it's tight right here, or vice versa. You want a nice even seam right up through there. Okay, I want to make sure that my switch is working properly, and it is. And of course, I still have not tightened this up completely. I can still play with that. So now that I know that I have it pretty much where I want it, if you want to, you can even loosen that up just a touch so that you can put your grip exactly where you want. So that's going to require you getting on the bike here in just a minute and then just kind of maneuvering all that around, and then you can tighten everything up exactly where you want it. But tentatively, that's what you're looking for. The grip is in place. It doesn't move because it's sitting in the proper groove as far as the top and the bottom is concerned. And I know that when I tighten it, that seam closes up. So I know that I'm good on this side right here. Okay, so we've got that left side on, and it's pretty secure. I still haven't tightened everything up on there just yet. I'm going to wait until I get my exact seating position and all that kind of stuff and exactly where I want that. But let's go ahead and move on to the right side. Very similar to the left. We're just going to go ahead and start loosening stuff up. Swap out to the Torx 27. Comes right off. All right, so we'll grab the throttle handle. We want to make sure that this is pushed into the handlebar and engaged so that it's not kind of hanging out and loose. And then what we're wanting to do here, and this is why we put the left one on first, is we're going to try to match these grips up as much as possible. This particular grip isn't all that unique in terms of its design and all that. You can be off just a little bit and it probably wouldn't hurt it, but I like to try to make it as symmetrical as possible. Alright, so just eyeballing it there, that looks like it's pretty close. Should be in place. Let's go ahead and tighten these back up just slightly. I'll do a final tightening on it here in just a second. This is just going to be kind of to hold everything in place for right now, so nothing slips out of place. Swap out my Torx. Put my switch cover back on. Okay, before I tighten everything down, what I want to make sure is that we got good operation of the throttle. So I twist it, it snaps back. I've got a little play in there. That's normal. We all know that on your throttle you're going to have a little bit of play. And then, you know, of course it's not coming out, so that means it is engaged in the slot around the switch housing right there. And then, so now it's just a matter of getting on the bike and making sure that you have your hand controls and your switch controls exactly where you want them. So let's just go ahead and make that adjustment real quick. Okay, and so the last thing is to put my odometer switch back on again. So you just slide it into place. You just slide it in and then press it down. And that's it. Very simple. Just slide it in, press it down, you feel a slight little pop, and then it's back on again. Okay, that's it. It's a very simple process on these throttle-by-wire bikes. Once again, go for the left throttle or the left hand grip first, because that's going to be a fixed position. So that's going to determine. So if you have anything that's unique about your grip, it has some particular structure on it or something like that. Some of them have skulls on it or flames and that kind of thing, and you want them to be symmetrical on the bike. So go for the left one first, because that's the one that's going to be fixed because of that little stop system that it has on there. And then the actual throttle itself, that you can always take off and just kind of rotate slightly in one direction or the other to get them both fairly symmetrical. But for the most part, these throttle-by-wire bikes, they're much easier to do the grips on. That was every bit of about 10 minutes, with the exception of stopping and moving the camera. But other than that, it's a very simple process. And then just turn around at the end and make sure that you have your hand grips or your clutch lever and your brake lever, your mirror and all that kind of stuff exactly where you want it. I like to put mine a little bit on the lower portion. I don't necessarily like it to be straight out. I like to kind of roll my hand a little bit when I'm riding. I kind of like it down below a little bit on both of them for some reason. That's just the way that I like it. And I actually waited to put these grips on because I was not sure about what I was going to do with these bars. These are the stock bars, and a lot of people come in here, and I fully expected to do the same thing. I thought one of the very first things that I was going to do was I was going to swap out these bars. When I first got the bike, the bars were way down here, and there was just no way in hell that I was going to ride around like that. It's uncomfortable. It's kind of hard to maneuver in tight spaces when the bars are that tight. So my first thought was, well, before I decide on the new bars that I want to get, let me at least move these things forward. So of course I took the instrument cluster off, which is a very simple process as well. Just a couple of bolts on either side. You take off this little cover right down here. Contrary to what people may tell you, you do not have to take that ignition switch off. You can if you want to, but you don't have to get this instrument cluster off. Once you get the instrument cluster off, then you have the head clamp there for your handlebars. All you have to do is loosen that up and you can move the bars. And that's what I attempted to do. And I couldn't get the bars to move. And I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get the bars to move. Well, thanks to YouTube, I went in there and did some research. And for some reason, Harley-Davidson puts a pin up through that handlebar clamp, and there's a hole in the bottom of the handlebar, and that pin is stuck up in there, and it prevents you from moving these bars from that atrocious position that they come in. I don't know of anybody that wouldn't want to move the bars to their preference, and to stick them in that position and then put a pin in there to prevent you from moving it. I don't understand that concept. Maybe it's because they want to lead people into thinking that they need to get new handlebars. I don't know. But anyway, after a little research, what I found out was just take the bars, lay them down here on the tank, and I can actually take that pin and I can drive it down out of the way. In fact, I actually hit it a couple times and knocked it straight out of the bottom, and it hit the floor. So I just got rid of that pin completely. I put the bars back on there. I adjusted them to the height that I wanted. And come to find out, I'm perfectly happy with these stock bars. I like the rise on them. I did push them forward a pretty good bit. I have fairly long arms. And I am happy with these stock bars now that I was able to get them pushed up further. I would probably like for them to come forward a little bit here on this pullback area. I would probably like them to be a little bit more out this way, but for the most part, I'm happy with it. I'm comfortable with it, and I went ahead and left the stock bars on there. I wasn't opposed to changing them out. It's a fairly simple process to change them out, especially on the road glides, because you have such easy access to the bar clamp itself. But I left them after I was able to actually move them forward. I left them. Now, another thing that I found out when I moved these bars forward, my brake lever over here and my clutch lever were now in this, they were really far down into a position where I was literally having to kind of pull over or reach over the top of the bar to get to them. So obviously they needed to be adjusted. So I attempted to loosen them a little bit and adjust them like I did just now, and they wouldn't adjust. They were in a fixed position as well. Once again, I did a little research and come to find out that Harley puts a pin in these as well. And there's a hole in the bar. So there's a pin that goes in there that prevents you from moving these things. So what you have to do is you have to disassemble this, set the brake and clutch lever off to the side, pull that one clamshell off, and on the inside of that clamshell where that pin comes up, just grind that thing out. I took a 90 grinder with a rotary file and I just ground it out, got rid of the pin, put it back together again, and then now I can adjust these anywhere I want to. So I can adjust the bars, I can adjust these anywhere you want. So if somebody is out there and they are, they're kind of back and forth as to whether or not they want to change the bars on these, you would like it to be just a little bit more comfortable, that the OEM bars might be just fine for you. They are for me, but I just had to make that adjustment. In order to do that, I had to get rid of those pins. So that's just a point of interest to you if you're interested in that. Just to kind of put this all in perspective, I know you're watching this on a video and you're thinking, okay, well, I'm 6 foot, I'm 200 pounds. When I buy a dress shirt, I buy a 34, 35. So I have fairly long arms. And so the seating position for me on this bike, now that I made those adjustments, is fine. I like it just the way that it is. And this is actually with a thick touring seat on it. Sometimes when I don't have my wife with me, I will swap out this thick touring seat and I'll go to the seat that came with it, which is actually a little bit lower. And then when I put that lower seat on, now I have an even more raised handlebar position. So as far as my preference is concerned, it worked out good for me. All right, so anyway, we put the new grips on the Project Road Glide. And I'm happy with these grips. I hated those original grips. Like I said, do the left one first. That's going to set your position, and then you can put the other one on so that they kind of match. You may have a set of grips where it just doesn't matter, or maybe you just don't care, and that's fine too. But anyway, it's a very simple process. Takes every bit of about 10 minutes. And so you can look at some of my other videos as far as what I've been doing with this particular bike. I do have a set of slip-on mufflers that's coming. They should be here in just a couple of days. I opted to go with some Cobra Neighbor Haters, 4-inch slip-on mufflers. I'm looking forward to putting those on. And then as of right now, I just don't think I can't think of anything else that I'm interested in doing to it. I'm still kind of contemplating maybe a 21-inch front wheel on it. I haven't made that decision yet. We'll see. But for right now, these were some basic things that I wanted to do. Changing out those grips is going to be a big positive for me. That was something that I wanted to do. All right, so thanks for watching my Project Road Glide. If you like this kind of stuff, please subscribe to my channel. And we'll be doing some other stuff here on my channel as well. I got quite a few outdoor projects that I want to get done this winter. I got some deck projects. I'll be getting the excavator out here in the next week or so, weather permitting, and cleaning up some trees. And my neighbor's got some bobcat work that he'd like for me to do. So I'm back to doing my outdoor farm stuff. And then I'll keep coming back to some motorcycle stuff as well. So thanks for watching, and on to the next job.